Patricio, thanks for sitting down with me.
Thanks for the invitation. This is good for us to spread the word.
Yeah, well, you received the Early Career Scientist Award from the National Association of Plant Breeders, which recognizes a scientist in the early stages of their plant breeding career who exhibits the ability to establish strong research foundations, interact with multidisciplinary teams, and to participate in professional plant breeding societies. Now, before we get to that, I'd like to talk about a fun subject, and that's blueberries. That's what you study.
That's correct.
My wife loves to pick blueberries where I'm from in Canada. Those are wild blueberries, of course. Now, you're a blueberry breeder at the University of Florida. Now, of all crops, how did you get interested in blueberries?
I'm a plant breeder, since the first time I saw that you could do plant breeding and influence how much fruit and how it's going to be tasting and how it's going to be shaped. I got interested in plant breeding. So I did my master in quantity genetics, always focusing in plant breeding, and then my PhD in molecular breeding. After I graduated, I got into a position of forage breeding. And by some opportunities, I got to jump from forage breeding to blueberry breeding.
Now, what does the global demand for blueberries look like? As I said, my wife loves to pick blueberries in Canada, but those are wild. You work obviously on domesticated blueberries. What kind of global demand is there for that?
Perfect. So as you said, the blueberries that you eat in Canada, they are very different. So you probably eat the low bush ones, the ones that you pick from almost the ground. The ones that we work with are the ones called high bush, and the ones that were domesticated around 100 years ago. And then we work specifically what we call these southern high bush blueberries. There is an increased demand of blueberries, and so as the industry is behind, with a huge increase in production, of course. Because of this increasing demand, is mainly driven by the health benefit that blueberries have, mainly from the anthocyanins, antioxidants. Antioxidants are good for you. So blue fruit, blue veggies are good for you. So people you see the trends into, consumers are more for healthy consumption, fruit and vegetables. So there is a pretty healthy demand at this point. We are hoping that once China and India start eating more blueberries, even at 10% of what we eat here in the US, probably there will be even more demand. Here in the US alone, we eat around over 2 pounds of blueberries per capita, so which is one of the highest.
Now that brings me to your work. You work to accelerate the breeding process with focus on outcrossing polyploid species. Now, in layman's terms, I am a layman. In layman's terms, what are you doing and why is this important in the blueberry world?
So let's start by diploid and polyploid species, right? So diploid species, it's like we are diploids. We have two sets of, for every chromosome set, we have 2 copies, right? Blueberries specifically, they have 4. So 4 copies of each set of chromosomes, right? And then that makes the breeding a little bit more difficult. So in our research, a part of developing cultivars, what we do is to try to develop tools to accelerate the process of breeding, because having 4 copies of the chromosome makes things a lot more difficult for doing plant breeding.
Now, currently you're working to develop low-chilling requirement blueberries. You're also working on traditional crop traits that help producers stay competitive. What is a low-chilling requirement blueberry and why is that in demand?
The blueberry was originally domesticated in the north part of the US, right? And then in these parts, we have long and very cold winters, right? Those could not be grown in the south part of the States, or neither obviously nor in tropical or subtropical parts of the globe. Right? The University of Florida back in 1950 started the hybridization to develop low-chilling blueberries. Low-chilling, that means that they can grow in areas where the winter is mild or almost inexistent, right? Because of they grow in more subtropical or tropical areas, they usually grow faster. So after 1 year after we plant them, we start harvesting. Well, for example, the relatives from the north, you have to wait until 3 to 5 years to have a good harvest, right? Because of this increase in consumption for blueberries globally, the industry has been migrating somehow to areas with a lower chilling requirement because of the accelerated process of production, right? But at the same time, there is an accelerated process of decay. That means that all cultivars, they don't last as long as the ones that are here in the north part of the country. So usually they last between 10 and 15 years. So that means that there is more demands for cultivars, and that means there is more relevance for what we do, as they are always demanding for new cultivars to plant in their fields.
And what does your perfect blueberry look like? If you could design the perfect blueberry, what does that look like? And is it within reach?
Well, maybe I should say, to start this discussion by saying the perfect cultivar does not exist and probably never will, right? And I'm not just saying it out of my, of what I believe. I mean, if you think about other crops that they were domesticated thousands of years ago, the perfect cultivar still doesn't exist, right? For example, grapes. It's been domesticated thousands of years ago, and there are still new grape cultivars coming because, this might have a disease problem, or this might have, some problems in post-harvest, or the consumer might not like it that much, or they want larger fruit, so on and so forth. Now, going back to blueberries. Blueberry was domesticated only 100 years ago, so it's a baby crop, right? So we still have a lot to do. However, I think we are walking in the right direction. So the perfect blueberry for me will be a blueberry that has a pretty good size, maybe around 18 to 20 millimeter size, right about, maybe right below what they are usually now you find in the supermarket sold by Jumbo. I will know, maybe for me it's not perfect. The Jumbo is not the perfect one, but maybe just right below that, right? And it has a crunchy taste. So basically you put it in your mouth and then it's crunchy, very firm, very good texture. And it has aroma. So that means when you crunch it in your mouth, all those volatile components, they volatilize, they go from the back of your mouth to the sensors in your brain, and they give you the sensation that, floral, fruital, tropical flavors. That's the perfect blueberry.
Now, I asked you how you got interested in blueberries, but how did you get interested in just plant breeding in general?
I mean, if you have any interest in biology, right, or agriculture, horticulture, forestry, and then let's say that you're just starting your career, right, or you are choosing careers, you're choosing a college. And I tell you, you have the chance to contribute how much food will be in the world. How is it going to be tasting? How is it going to be shaped? What color is it going to have? I think that's a pretty compelling argument for you to go and work in the industry that I work, right? So being a plant breeder, you have all those opportunities to work collaboratively with other people to somehow influence what are we going to be eating in the future, but not just food, also fiber, fuel, biofuels, beautifications, the turf, ornamentals, and all these possibilities in reality. So then you get to influence how the future is going to look like. I think that's a pretty compelling argument. That's why I fell in love with plant breeding, basically.
Where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Chile.
From Chile. Yes. And are there a lot of blueberries in Chile?
Yes, but they are actually using the cultivars that were developed here in the US.
Oh, okay. So your work actually influences people in Chile?
Right now, yes.
Now back to NAPB. We're here in Ames, Iowa for the annual meeting of the National Association of Plant Breeders. As I say, you received the Early Career Scientist Award. A colleague of yours said, since joining Florida as a faculty member, Patricio has developed a very impressive research program that is making fundamental contributions to plant breeding process development. That's pretty high praise. What's your advice for others as to how they can be successful in plant breeding as you have?
I don't know if I call myself successful, but I do what we need to be doing in a plant breeding program in a public university. So I would say first, if you are in a public program, I mean, you need to be publishing papers, you need to be getting grants, and you need to be graduating, students. Apart from that, if you want to manage a breeding program, that requires a ton more effort, right? That is not just the research part of the program. Listen to mentors. That's what I did a lot. And then I listened to a lot of people. It's like, this proverb that says we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and then you need to listen twice as much as you talk. I tried to do that. And then after that, I tried to pass that to the next generation as well. So I think there is one thing that we cannot teach in graduate school, which is passion. If you are passionate about plants, about plant breeding, we can train people to be very good and successful plant breeders. But passion cannot be taught.
That's true. Thanks for sitting down with me.
Appreciate it. Thank you.